All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this video is probably going to be a bit of a long video, just because I've actually got a lot to talk about in terms of, basically I've been spending a lot of time actually looking through the gear and actually doing proper theory crafting on TBC. I've also jumped on private server, the endless private server, and I went to their tournament realm, where you can get in like the max gear and all that kind of stuff, and actually see like what exactly is going on, like the base stats and all that stuff. So I've been a good boy, and I've actually been doing my own investigations into the matters. My internet has been complete and utter shit lately, though. It's the Chinese New Year over here, and during Chinese New Year, the internet always goes to crap. Like I only get to use it a few times a day. Like I'll give you a quick example here. This is actually pretty funny. So like let's say I want to catch up on Arch Warhammer's War for Badab series, which is what I'm trying to do. I actually like literally download like maybe 15 minutes of the video, like 20 minutes, 15 minutes of the video, and then I have to open up another tab and pick up where it left off, and then open another tab and then pick up where it left off, and just try to download as much of the videos as I possibly can, because once my VPN dies, I can turn off the internet and I can go back and I can kind of watch them like piecemeal. But if you look at how far I've gotten through this video, let's see. So in an hour-long video, I made it. Yeah, let's see, to like the 30-minute mark. That means my VPN was working for 30 minutes and then it dies. And then it won't be back for like a couple hours, or like about an hour it'll be off, and then it'll be on again for like 30 minutes and off. And it's just like, fuck you, China. Fuck you. So, VPN, not so good over here, which is why I've been really, I haven't been able to make too many Palicasts. I was able to do a Palicast with Talrain the other day, but I'm kind of ashamed of myself in the video. Let's see if I can pull up our good old Palicast. Some of these videos are the game I'm actually producing for Steam. Let's see here. So we did it like yesterday. This is probably it. All right, ladies.
Basically,
Holy shit, that's loud. Is the input happening at all is the question. Play? Play.
Why?
Yeah,
First off, how
it's just
hard
loud
is
as
it
fuck.
to get the gear with the resilience on it, and why exactly
Is there an audio
are
selection
you
here?
a
Yeah, okay.
dumbass if you're not getting the resilience gear?
Yeah, so I actually did a Palicast with Talrain, and I didn't actually upload it. I might upload it. I'll show you what the deal is. So literally, like the first part of the Palicast, like the first 30 minutes is me just going like, whoa, wait, that exists? Whoa, wait, this function exists? Like, why is this? Why is that? Like, it's just me being confused. AKA, I need to get my ass on a private server my own damn self and actually go sniffing around for what's what. And eventually I got off my butt and I looked at all the gear and blah, 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 blah. And some of the stuff at the end of this video that I end up talking about is very relevant, and I might just upload this Palicast just for that sake. Like when I start talking about CC chains and whatnot over here. Like I literally go into why Seal of Blood isn't really a thing, and it has to do with the Crusader strikes that you can see here. Let me turn off the audio, and I'll let Dumbass talk, aka myself. And I'll press play, and it didn't help at all. Okay, whatever. Pause. Anyway, so you can see this chain down here. I don't want to have to remake I didn't save this. I don't want to have to remake this damn thing. But basically, when you're doing like a CC chain attack, this has to do with Seal of Blood. Why Seal of Justice twisting is just as good as Seal of Blood twisting in the vast majority of cases, and the answer is. The only yeah. So your 6-second stun fades like right here. If you actually look at the amount of global cooldowns you're using, for example, in a stun, and I'm gonna pump all my damage into them with Crusader Strike. The only point you really get to twist is right as your 6-second stun is fading.
And you only get one twist in. You can either twist a seal of blood, or you can try to twist a seal of justice, for example. And if you successfully twist a seal of justice, assuming that the 2-second stun doesn't share a cooldown with the rest of the stuns, which apparently on the TBC private servers it doesn't, so that's good. There's a good chance, is what I'm saying. What ends up happening is the 2-second stun gives you enough time to get to another Crusader Strike, or in this case, another Crusader Strike. And so, whereas a seal of blood you could twist in for some extra damage, you might get like 600 extra damage in, which is a significant chunk of damage. But there's a chance your opponent can actually do something. They can CC you. They can take an action before your next Crusader Strike comes out. So often twisting Justice here in this CC chain is just as effective as twisting a Seal of Blood. But I go into detail on that, and I blather on for like a million years on this subject and a bunch of other subjects. And I also tried to cover like the three the three synergies that I am looking into. Like there's the burst meta, the burst synergy, like what it goes good with, what it doesn't go good with. I talk about why Nade and Arcane Torrent are very important for the burst synergy, and then of course I bring up our chain here. Why it's so good with Arcane Torrent is you Arcane Torrent when the 6-second fades right here, and you just make it to your next Crusader Strike, no problem, right? So possibly you make it to another auto attack as well, because you're 1.5 seconds away from an auto attack afterwards, and it's just really good stuff. I suppose if you're in World PvP, you could Arcane Torrent here, do a Seal of Blood twist, and then grenade stun them for 1.5 seconds, assuming it doesn't share a CD, and you'll make it to another auto attack. So it'd be like another auto attack over here that you could also theoretically seal twist on. Maybe not, though. Seal twist, Crusader Strike. Yeah, maybe. Maybe you got the globals for it. But your globals are super taxed, is basically what I'm saying, which is why when people talk about Seal of Justice twisting is kind of a thing. And Talrain ends up talking about this back here. Like I ask him basically, it's like, hey, why aren't you seal twisting? Why do you think blood's not that big of a deal? And he's like, honestly, I just seal twist justice, and it's just as good. And he didn't do a very good job of explaining why. Like he gave his own opinions on it, but it was kind of muddled. So at the end of the Palicast, I decided to actually look into why your GCD is being so taxed, and so it's really hard to get in a twist, and then why Seal of Justice twist right here is almost just as valuable as a Seal of Blood. Okay, what do I want to talk about now? Well, I had a couple of theories which I brought up, and honestly, Burst is the meta that the vast majority of the Ret Reckoning Paladins, I'm going to call them Ret Reckoning Paladins, but the Deep Ret Paladins in TBC are going with. I wanted to try to look into gearing for the variant Burst meta. And one of the things I ended up talking about, which is back here, is basically that the way variant Burst synergy works is, again, it's like it says right here, you gear a little bit more tanky. You survive for like multiple variant damage bursts, which would be like your CC chains, which would be this thing. You're trying to engage the target with multiple ones of these, and you're waiting for your RNG to basically come home for you. And the way that RNG tends to work is typically I call it, I look at it in terms of 1 in 4, like 1 in 4 connections. So here, because that's how the math works, but the point is like, let's talk about it in terms of like a wreck bomb, because this CC chain tends to play out a lot like a wreck bomb. There's actually a number of attacks here. I talk about it at length. Maybe I'll just post the video. There's some good information down here, and I probably should just make my own video, but I'm just going to do a quick recap before we get in here. And I want this. Okay, there we go. And what ends up happening is every 1 in 4 connections, kind of like flipping a coin, any kind of variant damage source that you're hitting your opponent with is going to double in its effectiveness. So your 25% crit becomes a 50% crit 1 out of 4 rec bombs. Your 40% chance to proc a seal of command, factoring in like some seal the casino negatives, becomes an 80% chance to proc seal a command. And I kind of have it over here where it's like, and I end up doing the math in this video, and it'll be like your average CC chain attack, which was this thing over here. Your average CC chain, which is like 5 auto attacks, might generate you based upon your combat stats between like 6 or 7 attacks. Whereas the variant one, it's going to be like 1 in 4 of your attacks ends up doing like 14 additional auto attacks or some crap like that. It's like 14 auto attacks. Well, let's lowball it. It's like 12 auto attacks worth of damage. The point is that every 1 in 4 of your TBC style rec bombs, which is just the Deep Ret CC chain, pump as many auto attacks into you as possible, will actually do about like 50 or 60% more damage. And the whole idea behind the variant burst is you gear yourself to be a bit more tanky. You're a bit less all in on the RNG, and rather than going for killing in like two CC chains with your target, you're trying to go for like 4 or 5 CC chains kind of a thing. But then I started looking into the gear. This might still be a viable thing to look into, variant burst. It's on my list to look into next. But the one thing I really looked into rather heavily was the time on target option, especially in like arena settings and stuff like that. Let's get out of here. I'm done with this. And by looking into it, I mean I really looked into stuff. And the first thing I began to notice, because again, I was on a private server. Where is Vengeful? Here we go. The first thing I began to notice is that, how do I explain this? The gear that Blizzard says should be good for you in PvP is actually really crappy. And it really pigeonholes you into doing certain things. Like, they have a PvP set for healing, which is actually really good. The PvP set for healing is very good. It's the ornament set here. You got 3 sets. I think it's one is like scalded armor and stuff. The other one is lamellar, and then ornamented. And one of them is basically it's got all the same. You can see the Vengeful here. It's got the hell is this? Spell critical strike chance, whoop-de-fucking-do. Resilience rating, okay, that's fine. And then it's got just like raw spell power. And then the other one is the exact same stats. You can see right here, no difference. But then it's spell power and damage rather than just raw spell power. Which brings us to an interesting observation. And I guess we'll get into that later. But basically, your choice is... Where am I? My Vengeful? Thank you very much. Basically, your choice is between 3 different PvP gear sets, or mixing and matching between the 3, or mixing and matching the PvE gear with the PvP sets, or digging deeper into what kind of cloth and what kind of leather and what kind of mail stuff you can use. And the two-handed ret damage stuff is literally, it's like strength, it's stamina, and it's intellect. Strength, stam, int. Strength, stam, int. And then it's like melee crit rating and resilience, and that's about it. And it's, as Talrain describes it, he basically says that it's like, it's the kind of gear you wish existed in classic World of Warcraft for Ret Reckoning, which is just int, strength, stam. I think it has some agility on it, possibly, but it's just melee crit. And then the healer one is basically as you see here, and then the lamellar one is as you see here. So the lamellar is very interesting. Now let's actually talk about some raw numbers here. This is where we're going to get serious here. Serious on the subject. Let's talk raw numbers. Okay, so all 3 sets typically have HP ranging from about 11k to 12k. 12k is like you're really pushing the you're pushing the hit points. Specifically, you're like gemming the hit points, which is not a bad idea. So hit points range from like 11 to 12k. The plus healing has like a metric shit ton of plus healing, but let's focus on the Lamellar, and you can figure out the plus healing stuff. So the Lamellar gear set has between 1100. Well, let's start with spell power. Spell power. There we go. This is all the information I was gathering on the private servers. Those gear sets have between 1100 to 1200 like spell power, like damage and healing. And then conversely, I'll put it in parentheses, the healing, and if you must know, is, let me think, it's like 40%. Yeah. So healing ends up being like 0.6. Like let's say you switched out, and you can see it right here. Let me go back. Where's my vengeful set at? You can see the difference right here. So I either get a choice of either 35 damage and healing, or I can pick 66 plus healing and then 22 spell power. So what I'm trying to describe is what's the difference between the 2 sets. Like if I go Lamellar or if I go Ornamented, and I gear out kind of around there as is. And the answer is, let's see, it's about 0.6. You'll end up having like 0.6 of the spell power, and you can see this real fast here. Let me pull up a calculator. Right, it was 35 and 26. Fucking internet. Oh my god. Hopefully this works. Should be able to handle a calculator. Alright, okay, we did it. So if I go 35 times 0.6, it should be like 22. Yeah. So it ends up being about 0.6. It's a little bit less. It's like, as you can see there, 21 as opposed to 22. It's a little bit less than 0.4. So, let me see here. So, yeah. So if I converted all this gear into plus healing, so rather than having like, well, we'll lowball it. We'll say, rather than having like 1100 spell power, I would have 0.6 of that. So I ended up having about 700. We'll round that up a little bit. Let's see, or I could have it's either 0.6 for the spell power, and then it's times 2.66 infinity for the plus healing, which in this particular case would be 700 spell power, and I guess I got to get the math on the, how much for plus healing? I guess I got to go spell power slash, and the plus healing is times, we go back, we did 1100, and it's times 2.66666666, which is about 3k, so 3100, give or take. Yeah, 3100. Those will become important in a second. Plus healing. So those are kind of your 2 options, and the reason why I give you the ratios is because both of these are a little extreme, and you're probably going to want to kind of mix and match the 2. Like you're not really going to want to go either the pure spell power or you're going to want to go the pure plus healing. You're going to want to mix and match the 2, and you're about to find out why. Let's see here. But anyways, yeah, those are the ratios. 0.6 and then times 0.666666, or like another one is like 0.4. You can do the math, but that's how the spell power tends to play out. Let's talk healing. Oh god. So all right, no, we should need first. Then we need to go DPS. DPS. Okay, doubles for all classes. And then HP, as you can see, it's also doubling. So what ends up happening in TBC, from what I can tell, and from talking to Talrain, is that your hit points effectively double. Like we went from like, 5.4-ish K to 11 to 12k hit points. That's a doubling in the Paladin hit points. Everyone else's hit points basically doubles. Everyone else's DPS basically doubles. So it's like, so far so good. Everyone's doubling, so therefore the meta should be kind of the same as classic World of Warcraft. And the answer is yes, but then you end up with shit like this. Your healing is nerfed, right? No, that's not actually true. Base healing is bad. So, for example, I think our Flash of Light at its max rank at level 70 heals for like 600 to 700. It's like really bad. It might be less than that. I haven't actually tested it. I'm a bad boy. It's true. I almost never FOL, but I might end up having to. But we'll talk about FOL later. But more importantly is your Holy Light. So the base healing of your... Thank you. That's very lovely. The base healing of your HOL is 2,300. Okay, that's 300 plus healing up from what it is in Classic World of Warcraft. In Classic World of Warcraft, it heals for 2k. So now it's healing on average for like 300 more. But everyone's DPS has doubled and everyone's hit points total has doubled. This means that rather than counting on a Holy Light to heal me for 40% of my life at a base level with like no additional gear in Classic World of Warcraft, in TBC, that same Holy Light with no gear but behind it is going to heal me for... like 20% of my life. I need 2 fucking Holy Lights in TBC to equal the same base healing power that I have in Classic World of Warcraft. This is really bad. Now, when I was talking to Talrain, he was like a lot of the damn, what was it? A lot of the Palicast video was me just going, whoa, wait, what? Whoa, wait, what? So at first, the video starts out, and it's like, he's talking about how, as a paladin, you feel really squishy. And so I immediately tried to figure out, like, hey, what exactly is it that's causing you to be really squishy? And, I looked at the hit points, and I'm like, okay, well, the hit points are doubling. And then we talked about DPS, and I'm like, okay, well, DPS seems to be doubling. So, that doesn't make any sense why you're squishy. And then he started healing himself in his pure ret gear, and I saw the base amount of heals, and I just wanted to die a little bit inside. Like I got depressed for a while there. I'm not gonna lie. I'll pull it up real fast because it's probably pretty funny. Oh God, it was bad. Where's that picture of? Here we go. Yeah. He starts healing him. Yeah, ask him to go get healing gear. I think. That's for. Can I click you? You're like me. You're a guy. You can't multitask. Got some flashes and holies real fast. Here we go. No wonder they're also the worst fucking healer in the game. Oh my God, that's so bad.
One of the main reasons they're one of the worst healers in the game is because they're not very mobile, and
yeah. Their stuff is all interruptible.
It's all they have. Like their only instant heal is Holy Light. Like they're very prone to interrupts.
So there's use grenades.
Which
no
is
grenade? Or is it casting it in ret? I want to see that. Probably why you're feeling squishier is because you can't fucking heal yourself. Yeah. That's a max rank Holy Light.
2300.
Here we go. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's probably got some armor. That's why. The holy damage is doing a lot to him. Probably because he. So we'll just go through the armor and.
Is there any spell power or mana in this gear, or is this like heal? Damn you!
Like on there, I'm putting on a sword board.
Dude.
It's like 5-minute cooldown. Like, probably not as.
I don't care that much about arena. On Shadow Bolt at you, right? Then you have to. Okay, so from a raw mathematical perspective, that I don't know, man. We don't have a choice. We got to get the PVE gear. I guess maybe it's on the resist meta. They're getting pretty common. Ugh.
Yeah. But it reduces damage, periodic damage.
All right, whatever. Enough of that. I can't find it. But yeah, I start bitching a lot about the fact that the healing is absolutely awful. Like, it is so bad at a base level. Okay, let's get back to our mathematicals here. Okay, so what this basically means is that our base healing capability is absolutely dog shit. So if you were like Ret Reckoning in Classic World of Warcraft and you didn't have a lick of spell power on you, you could at least heal yourself for 40%, a little bit less than 40% of your life total with a single FOL. You might not be able to sustain that mana bar wise very much, but you could do it, right? 2.5 second cast, 40% of your life, boom. Now it's 2.5 second cast, and you're going to heal for 20% or less of your life. That's so bad. That is absolutely terrible. This kind of essentially pigeonholes us. It means you're basically a warrior. So if you're in the Deep Ret gear, if you're in the Scolding and not the Lamellar, not the Ornamental, and you have no plus healing on your gear whatsoever, like you're not doing any of that, your ability to stop and heal yourself, even to play like classic Deep Ret in classic World of Warcraft, isn't really there because your heals are just so bad. It's like you have the mana bar a little bit, but you just don't have the healing. And so I started looking into the gear to like try to find a way around this. And since basically what I was trying to figure out is, it's like, okay, what kind of gear is out there and what can I do and what can I do? Let's bring up the one where I start coming to some conclusions. Yeah, so I started looking at all the gear possibilities, and then I actually wrote down like what kind of gear actually exists out there and can I mix and match it, blah 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 blah. So I found out that we've got items that give me spell haste, spell damage, and int. The spell haste, if I'm not a healer, is basically useless. It's a dead stat. It was really hard. What I'm trying to explain, it was really hard to find gear that didn't have dead stats on them. So let's go through it real fast. Spell haste, dead stat. Spirit, int, healing. This one was actually pretty good, which is why I pulled out and listed down all the stuff that actually I found a lot of the spirit gear, and we'll talk about spirit, why I'm going to be start gearing towards spirit more than anything else. Melee haste, attack power, agi, and int. Well, depending upon your spec, either the melee haste is dead, or the agility is a dead stat, or the attack power doesn't synergize very well. So, for example, melee haste on the Deep Ret Paladin isn't really useful. However, on the Spell Power Paladin, it is very useful. But on the Spell Power Paladin, attack power and agi wasn't very good. Most of this came from mail gear. Most of the spirit gear was found to be either cloth or leather. The spell haste gear was here and there, but mostly it was on, there was a few bits that were spell damage, but a lot of it was spell haste on the healing gear. Strength, int, crit, and resilience. The strength is a little dead, and there weren't a lot of gear pieces in this category either. Spell, crit, int, resilience, spell power, or healing. This was like the PvP sets. And if we pull up the PvP set, you can very clearly see that, like, where's the dead stat? It's like, where's Waldo? Where's the dead stat? Well, if you're not healing yourself, then your critical strike rating is actually a dead stat. Critical strike rating here is the dead stat on this gear, and that's what I was trying to get around. On top of that, it doesn't have a lot of sustain, which is a thing we need to talk about. Oh, God. I'm just telling you all the findings I've done through, like, a couple days' worth of research here. Okay, so yeah, the critical strike rating is basically a dead stat. If you want to know what it masks out to, all right, I was listing out actual stats. Okay, so resilience. Okay, so resilience-wise, like what you can expect, like if you run into people that have full PvP gear, they're going to be sitting at about 10%, minus 10% chance to be crit. It's about 11 actually, minus 11% chance to be crit, and they're going to have about 22% reduced. It's double the crit chance. 22% reduction to crit damage, and then things like mana drain, and then all the stuff that resilience effectively gets you, which means that the vast majority of targets you're going to be going up against as a paladin are going to have they're going to be running resilience gear, which means they're going to be minus 11, 10 to 11% chance to be crit, and all the rest of this together. The Holy Shock Paladin, like if you go like pure Lamilar, Holy Shock crit, the Holy Shock crit was about 25%, maybe a little bit higher. But that's getting cut down by like 11%, so you might be able to squeak in like a 15% chance to crit as like a Holy Shock Paladin. What's worse is, let's see, Holy Shock was critting for about 2,000 damage. On top of that, well, that's like 2,000 damage without the 22% reduction. So I suppose I should put this in parentheses and do a little math here. So we're actually minusing about 400. So it'll be about 1,600 critical damage with a resilience. The SOR or whatever judgment you're planning on using, judgment. This is all stuff I tested on the private server. Was hitting for quite a bit, actually. It was hitting for about 1,100, and that's like a non-critical. That's just a bitch slap of 1,100. So SOR on the private servers, your judgment damage is actually pretty terrifying. What else? Consecration was on the private servers was doing 10% spell power per tick, so a total of like 90%. Seal of Vengeance had some spell power ratio behind it, but it wasn't that impressive. Other things that I tested for the purposes of a holy power based cat paladin were what SOR is doing on private servers. Keep in mind, you have to take all of this with a grain of salt because it is a private server, so it's like, how do I put this? I have faith that they got Holy Shock right. I have faith that they may have gotten Judgment, Seal of Righteousness, Judgment damage right. I do not. I have faith that they got Concentration right. There we go. I have faith that they got Consecration right. I do not have faith on private servers that they got either Seal of Righteousness, on hit effects, and damage correctly, and I super do not have faith that they got Seal of Vengeance correctly, because both those abilities were like changed quite a number of times throughout the life cycle of TBC. Like, you know, they were patched and patched and repatched, and a lot of private servers like to come out with a progressive itemization, progressive abilities, or not really abilities, but it's just bleh. So I don't really trust it, but I'll tell you what the findings were. It's a little bit better than it is in Classic World of Warcraft, but it's also worse. So SOR was doing 10% of your SP ratio per second of swing time. So if your weapon was 1.5 seconds swing time, it would do 15% of your spell power. 2 seconds, it would do 20%. 4 second swing timer would do 40%. You get the point. So it was 10% SP ratio. This is slightly superior to what it is in Classic World of Warcraft, in the sense that it's a much better ratio if you're using slower weapons, but it's actually a much worse ratio if you're using fast weapons, because, you know, Seal of Righteousness rank 3 has a 20% spell power ratio, and you're using it on like a 1.5 speed weapon, but in this case it would be 15%. It's a bit of a nerf. Vengeance. I didn't even bother looking at the Vengeance spell power ratio. It is there. It wasn't proccing every single hit. I don't know if that's actually going to be how it works in Classic or not, but if you use a fast enough weapon, it doesn't proc every single hit, which is weird. It also didn't proc additional damage after the Seal of Vengeance. So the way Seal of Vengeance is supposed to work is you hit somebody, it puts a dot on them. You hit somebody, it stacks up the dot. The dot stacks up to 5 times, and then after 5 times of stacking, it acts like a Seal of Righteousness. It's just, it immediately applies all the extra damage. And I think that was like the final iteration of Seal of Righteousness that before Wrath of the Lich King came out. So yeah, when I got on private servers and I started messing around with Seal of Vengeance, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this thing is not going to be how it is in Classic World of Warcraft, but just know that it actually has some spell power behind it, and I was very much horrified to see how bad it was on private servers. Okay, what else do I want to talk about? Okay, let's talk about sustain and how bad it is. So, as I just showed you, the base healings in TBC are funky. Like they're really, really low. And what this means is you really need to have plus healing gear to even get your healing spells. And this might be the case for all the classes, because you're only getting like +1 rank of all your healing abilities, but your HP are total in the DPS is doubling. So, looking through the gear, I found almost no sustain gear whatsoever. So what I specifically found is that there is some. Well, actually, I want to put this in parentheses. Holy crap! There is some big fucking parentheses. Come on, parentheses. Oh, really? Okay, fine. Way over here? No parentheses? Oh, I forgot how to type for a second. Jesus. There is some MP5 gear. And the vast majority of MP5, majority was on mail. So the majority of the MP5 gear was actually found on mail, and it was like stuff that you would normally see on like a elemental shaman, for example, and where it was like spell haste and like MP5, or just like a MP5 and spell power. But there's some MP5 that does exist in the gear, but it's super low. It's like, it'll be like, here, have 12 MP5. Here, have like, 10 MP5. Have like 6 MP5. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, if I went out on my way to get a bunch of MP5 and I didn't skip on the gemmings for MP5, meaning I'm actually like gemming either spell power or stamina, because you wouldn't want to gem MP5. You're only looking at having about 100 MP5. The MP5 was very few and far between. I think why they did this is because if they're giving people this much spell power, down ranking becomes a significant concern as far as people's mana efficiency, so they just didn't give out a lot of MP5. All right, let's see. Let's go 2 here. I did the... Whoa. Did the tab thing, so it shouldn't work anymore. Yeah, okay, fine, whatever. Boop. All right. Bloop. Yeah, totally not working, are we? 2. All right, so the other one was Spirit. There was lots of Spirit, specifically on leather and cloth healing gear, predominantly. Healing gear. And from what I've been able to gather, watching some videos and so forth and so on, the way paladins actually gear in TBC when they're healing is there's supposed to be one paladin that gears to do like holy light healing, and then another paladin gears to do flash of light healing, and apparently their gearing is quite a bit different. And I can already tell you what the difference is. The difference is one of these jackasses is going to want critical strike chance and MP5, which is going to be on the male gear predominantly. And the other guy is going to want Spirit, because there is an actual ocean of Spirit gear in classic TBC. And the Spirit was actually quite powerful. You can actually test it on the private servers, because it actually tells you in your character screen what Spirit does. So I tested it for us, and what I discovered is that Spirit is... let's see. Let's do it in an actual proper sense. So the number of plus Spirit that you get on the gear ended up being... let me think. It was like times 1.2 MP5, but that's only when you're not casting. I'll give you an example. An example was I had 90. The Spirit was my Spirit. I forget the number of Spirit I had, but it was telling me that it was worth 90 mana per 5 when not casting. And then I went up +2 spirit. However, when I went up, I did, let's see, I went plus like 64 spirit. Boop, boop. 64 spirit. And what happened was, there we go. And that changed from 90 to like 170, for example. So as near as I can tell, it was a little bit over a 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to say it's about a 1.2. So it's about a 1.2 ratio. And I was also unable to test because the gear on the private server I was on was extraordinarily limited as far as spirit was concerned. I'm unable to confirm or deny, and I won't even know until Classic World of Warcraft comes out or the beta comes out, if the spirit is on an escalating curve like it is in Classic World of Warcraft. So in Classic World of Warcraft, the more spirit you stack on top of spirit, it gets more and more effective. So for example, it might start out as a 1-to-1 ratio, but then it goes like 1.1, then 1.2, then 1.3, then all the way up to like 1.5. So the more spirit you get on the gear, it starts growing in its effectiveness. Unknown if it still works that way in TBC, but I just know that just a quick example of going up from like having 80 spirit, which was telling me it was doing 90. I went up like plus 64 on the private server. That was about all I could muster. And the next thing I know, it goes up to like 170 mana per 5 when not casting. And that alone made me basically drool. I'm like, oh, yes. And the reason why this is a really big deal is because what I'm trying to describe to you, and I ended up talking to Talrain to confirm this, is the PvP gear that they're giving players, like, you know, the super well optimized PvP gear you get out of the arenas, is not well optimized at all for sustain. Like, it's actually quite bad for sustain purposes. And I'll give you an example. So when I put on the Holy Shock Paladin gear that was basically recommended, I was in the Lamellar gear, which meant I had like 1100 spell power. And that's when I got these ratios where it was like, okay, if I'm in pure Lamellar and I've got like 1100 spell power and I'm doing everything correctly, you know, oh, what does a Holy Shock crit for? What does SOR do? What does Consecration do? Blah, 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 blah. I would run out of mana in about 2 minutes. So if I'm doing Holy Shock into Judgment, into Holy Shock into Judgment, I'm not even consecrating Holy Shock into Judgment, Holy Shock into Judgment, Holy Shock into Judgment, I was out of mana in about 2 minutes. Part of the reason for that is because you only have like 9,000 mana, which is only like a 50% increase in your total mana bar. You've got like almost no sustain. Spirit went up not at all. Like in the gear, in the Lamellar gear, because there's no fucking spirit on the gear, I have as much spirit as I do on Classic World of Warcraft. Which means that, admittedly, my spells have not increased in damage substantially. In fact, they're for the amount of damage they're doing. Point is, I imagine you run out of spirit mana a lot faster in Classic World of Warcraft, but then you have MP5, so it's just really hard to say. So yeah, at about 2 minutes, and I was out of mana. And talking to Talrain, it seems that sustain is actually a really big issue in arena comps and whatnot, because the PvP gear they give you just doesn't come with a lot of sustain. So I was wondering if there was a lot of sustain on the other gear, and the answer is outside of Spirit and like a handful of MP5 that you can get, like maybe you can get up to like 100 MP5, there's no real sustain worth a damn in the game. So the actual strategy for trying to recover any mana in arenas is you need to break combat and you need to drink, because there's really no other way to do it. And this brought up some very interesting concepts. So now we're going to go look over at the gear. So what I decided might be a good thing to do is I'm going to wear like 4-piece Lamellar. Like I'm trying to make the time on target Paladin work, right? The one-handed, good old spell power, time on target Paladin. I'm trying to figure out if it'll work in an arena comp. blah, 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 blah. And this will be the subject of conversation for the rest of this video. I decided I'm going to be using 4 out of 4 lamellar, if for no other reasons. Like, it doesn't actually, I don't have the benefits down here, but it says that if you get 4 out of 5 of these pieces, it reduces the cooldown of your Justice stun by, like, 10 seconds. It's the old set bonus from the Marshall set, which I'll probably get that, but past getting 4 out of pieces of the lamellar gear, I'm not super interested in the rest of the lamellar gear, because it technically for me has a dead stat on it. The critical strike chance is effectively a dead stat as far as one-handed spell power Paladin is concerned. So I started looking into things, and I was like, okay, what are other options? Like, here I have pulled up, like, this is titled, like, boots and wrists. Like, what are the other options? And I've got lamellar here, and I've got the healing version over here. This is Vengeful? Vindicators? I think this is Vengeful. So I chose, like, how do I put this? It's like, if you haven't looked at the gear sets in TBC yet, all of the PvP gear is virtually the same. It's got the exact same spread of stats. It does the exact same stuff. It's just the item level goes up, therefore the stats go up, blah, 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 blah. So, and the way it kind of pairs off is the PvP gear is like 146, and then the PvE gear is like 141, and I might have a lesser one here, or it'll be like, I think it'll be less than that. Like, the PvP gear will be like 130, but then the PvE gear will be like 128 or something like that. So, based upon my point is, it's like season 1 arena, your gear is going to be like 128, and then season 2 arena or whatever, when it goes up again, is going to be like 146, but then your PvE gear will most likely be 141. So I was like, yeah, I'll split the difference, and I'll just look at the middle ground and theory craft off that, because apparently nothing changes. Literally nothing changes. Even your PvE gear, it doesn't have any variance. It just goes up in stats. Like, I'll try to give, like, these boots here, right? Stamina, intellect, spirit, and then healing, 141. And then right over here, it's like, oh, look, intellect, stamina, spirit, and then plus healing, and then 128. And it's like, oh, okay, no real variance. That was fun. But I started looking at my options, and what I discovered is that this ratio is actually quite fascinating. This 0.6 to times 2.66. So what my current plans are for the one-handed spell power paladin is, rather than having 1100 spell power, I'm going to knock off about 200 spell power. So I'm going to sacrifice maybe 200 or more spell power on the paladin. I'm going to lose, that's like 17% spell power DPS or some crap like that. But instead, I'm going to convert that into plus healing gear that has spirit on it, and I'll explain why in a second. Like, these are my plans as far as pally time is concerned. And I think I calculated it. In order to lose 5 or 200 spell power, I have to strip off like 500 spell power from this gear. And it was like, wow. So that's like, how do I, like, this gear right here, I was like, okay, with these ratios, the point I'm making is the damn healing gear comes with spell power, right? And it's coming with 60% spell power. So in order to lose 200 spell power, I need to convert 500 spell power worth of gear from stuff like lamellar, it's all lamellar here, into stuff more like the ornamented greaves, right? Which is the direct conversion. So I need to convert 500 of this into this over here. And then I started looking at the spirit gear. Let's find the boots. That's a good example in the boots. Then I started looking at the spirit gear, and it's like, okay, I don't want ornamental healing gear. So literally, I'm converting the lamellar gear, the lamellar style gear, into the healing style gear, but I don't want a dead stat in critical strike rating, and I don't want too much resilience, even though resilience is it's okay. But as my spec and as my playstyle, it's not necessary. I'm a heavy protection paladin, so not a deep protection paladin, but a protection paladin. I'm TBC's variant of Holy Reckoning is what I got planned. So resilience is not super necessary because I already have damage reduction sources from my talent points. So this is technically something I can get rid of. I totally want to get rid of this dead stat, and I want better optimization on stuff like this. And then you run into items like this, like Boots of Divine Light, an item that is almost useless. It's something you would virtually disenchant in raids, because at 141 there are better stats. Like you can just see, like right here is a better pair of healing boots. It's got more spirit, it's got more intellect, it freaking heals better. It's just got less stamina. In a PvE environment, that's not a big deal. This fucking thing, however, this is beautiful. Like a blue socket, what you're gonna find is that the spirit gear, it actually, you don't lose a lot of stamina wearing the spirit gear, and in some cases, such as this is a prime example, you actually gain stamina. So this blue socket to me is plus 12 stamina, and this yellow socket here is like plus 6 stamina and something else, because I could put a green gem in there. So this whole thing is like plus 18 stamina, and then I add 18 stamina on top of that, and it's like, oh god, I'm actually gaining a lot of stamina by wearing this gear. What the fuck? And ironically, you're actually gaining spell power from this piece of gear, which is kind of retarded. You're gaining, what is that, like 6 spell power? It's just like, I'm so confused. But it's the spirit here that is the big selling point. You go over here to bracers, and I don't want lamellar bracers because, again, it's got this dead stat. It's got the itemizations that I'm not super interested in. And then I looked at all the other options that are available in the 141 category. And let's see here. What did I eventually choose? So these have... Is this the same damn thing? Look at your... Oh, no. So the stats are slightly different, but not by much. You could choose this one. This one's got, what is that? 27 stamina. So you lose like 2 stamina. You gain some intellect, but you gain a metric shit ton of spirit. You lose very little spell power. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. As long as I'm not super valuing the critical strike rating and I'm not super valuing the resilience, these are all upgrades for me as far as I'm concerned. Another example we could have over here is we'll go with the shoulders. Like I listed off, like this is chest and shoulders, like the option. I just have the lamellar gear to look at now by comparison, so not a direct reference anymore, but I wasn't super interested. I might actually keep these shoulders. The red sockets and the yellow sockets aren't so good. It's hard to get stamina into the red sockets, but it's very easy to get things like a spell power, critical strike rating, and all that kind of stuff. Yellow sockets, it's a little bit hard to get stamina in there, but you can get it in there. You look at the other options, and it's like, this isn't so good. The stamina is really low, but I get a lot of spirit. What else we got going here? Not super good options. Low stamina. This has got strength and stamina. So this is basically telling me that one of my 4 pieces of lamellar that I'm probably going to be using is going to be the chest, right? Like this, because there's nothing good to replace it with. Go over to the shoulders. We got Swift Steel, which gives me some haste and some hit rating. Possible swap, but super low stamina loss. This is a stamina loss, a lot of spirit, stamina loss, spirit. Yeah, there's no sockets to make up for the stamina loss in this gear. So suddenly I'm looking at it, and it's like, I'll probably take the lamellar shoulders, and I'll take lamellar chest piece for sure. Let's head on over to, I did boots. Let's try gloves. There's some good examples over here with the gloves. I think one of these pieces is a 128. Yeah, okay, so this guy was kind of funny. This guy is in the 146 category or the 141 category. He's competing with the rest of these gear because he's got 2 fucking blue sockets. So he's basically giving me 28 spell power, so I lose a little bit of spell power, but 2 blue sockets is like plus 24 hit points. This guy is basically saying he's got 40 6 stamina. So it actually gains stamina from this to this, and I gain like spirit. I'm happy as a clam, but I think the light bearer was better. It actually has oh shit, it's got strength. Maybe it wasn't light bearer that I was interested in. Maybe, yeah, it's this guy down here. So this guy, yeah, he comes with a higher base stamina, so that's like 12 and 6, so 18, so 40, 53. This guy is telling me he's got 53 stamina, he's got 28 spell power, and a metric shit ton of plus healing and spirit, lots of spirit. This guy is definitely my boy. This guy is on the hit list because come 128, come for the first season, this guy is muy bueno as far as I'm concerned. You got little you got. I probably should show you guys the Swift Steel stuff here real fast. Where is Swift Steel? There's this one set of gear that has like a lot of haste. There's actual. You can look at the gearing yourself if you want, but this is basically what I'm doing. Okay, so moral of the story is my current plan. Yeah, go away. My current plan is to try to strip out. Thank you. It's very nice of you. Fuck off. My current plan is to try to strip out about 200 spell power and convert that for exchange that for a combination of plus healing and spirit. Let's see the calculator. So if I go, so I did minus 200, which means I have to times that by 2.66. Boom. So I'm gaining like 550, give or take. Which means I go up, what was that? We started with like 1100. So 1100 plus 550. So we're at like 1650. So I'll end up having like 900 spell power. Come on, find the O. There we go. But I'll have like 1650 plus healing, which is actually kind of important. But far more importantly, I'm probably picking up some ridiculous number like plus 300 spirit. And I'm not even kidding about that. Because in order to, and that would be like me being potentially in, again, the private server I was on didn't really have this gear, so I couldn't really test this stuff. But this is theoretically me being in like 4-piece lamellar. And then the rest of the gear is just like plus healing gear. And basically it's a mix of like the plus spirit, the plus healing gear, the 4-piece lamellar, and so forth and so on. One sec, I got to go do something. Ah, super nice. Yeah, I got some fresh baked bread over here. So if you hear me munching away over here, that's basically what's going on. Like the house is absolutely filled with the smell of it. And it's just like, okay, come on, let's give it to me. All right, so what am I trying to explain? I'm trying to explain that between, we basically have 2 gearing extremes and then everything in between. So gearing extreme number 1 is, you know, like the 11 to 1200 spell power. And then gearing extreme number 2 is like, you know, between 700 spell power and then like 310 plus healing. Like you can't get away from the damage. They're just going to give it to you, which is fine. And then the question is, well, if we sacrifice spell power for plus healing, like what else can we pick up? And one of the only other things you can pick up is spirit. However, spirit is absolutely amazing. And the reason for this is, one second, I'm going to take a bite of food. I'm going to pause the video while I do this. This is really tasty. All right. The beast has been satiated with fresh bread and ham. Let's go on with this. So what I'm basically trying to say is, between these 2 extremes, what are our other gearing options? Like, what are our other gearing possibilities? And the answer is, well, we can just straight up sacrifice spell power for plus healing, and we can straight up sacrifice plus healing for spell power. Interchangeably. But the other thing that, I should say, about the only other thing that we can pick up that is even worth a damn or even worth considering is you can pick up resistances, but I got to look into that. You can pick up, where's my thingy? Where's my thingy? Yeah, you can pick up resistances. You can pick up some melee haste, but that tends to have lots of combat stats on it. Like the melee haste just doesn't synergize very well with just about anything you want to do. Like because it's got like agility, stamina. It's basically like hunter gear. It's like agility, stamina, intellect, melee haste, attack power, which I think I got somewhere here. Like melee haste, attack power, agi, int, yeah. And about the only thing that really stood out to me that you could pick up that was even remotely worth a damn was Spirit. And the reason why, and then of course I tested Spirit and I was like, holy shit, this is worth a metric shit ton of MP5, is because one unique feature of Paladin that a lot of other classes can't do, like maybe a Druid shapeshifting in and out of bear form can get away with this, but they have to shapeshift and that costs a lot of mana, is that what Paladins can do is Paladin, especially the one-handed variant of a Paladin, can maintain a ridiculous percentage of its DPS while maintaining a metric shit ton of spirit ticks. And Drakova often talked about this, I think in his like holy Paladin guides or something like that. Okay, that's interesting, but sure, why not? And let me try to get some math behind this. So I think it's like mathematically, like let's say you're a Paladin and you're rather than judging on cooldown, you're waiting for the next mana tick and then you're judging, which I think is at 11 seconds as opposed to 10 seconds. So you're waiting for like a mana tick at the 11-second mark and then you're judging, and then 11 seconds later you're judging, and then 11 seconds later you're judging. You can maintain something like 90% or more of your DPS while keeping up. Let me think. So it's like every 5, yeah, with about 50% spirit uptime. Let's see, you can maintain about 90% DPS with about 50% spirit tick uptime, and it's actually like 60% theoretically, but you're gonna have to stop and heal yourself. You're gonna have to throw a stun. You're gonna have to do this or that. So it's gonna be about 50% or a little bit less than that, which is a metric shit ton of damage coming back, or mana coming back into you. Of course, you can also judge wisdom on the target, but we'll talk about the pros and cons of judging wisdom on target when you're working with this much spirit. So that's option number one. Option number one is you're only healing when you absolutely have to. You're trying not to heal very often. You're trying to get as many. You're trying to maintain your judgment damage output because, like we saw, SOR judgment was doing a significant amount of damage, but you're really working the mana ticks. So that's option one. Option two. Let's see here. I don't want to go down here. I want to. So actually, what's going on here? No. Go away. This thing, that thing, this thing. Okay. A. Thank you. Whoa. That's Arch Warhammer. Huh. Have to delete that. Boom. Go away. So I guess the UI just wasn't working. Interesting. It was there, but it was hidden. Or you can maintain like something like 80%. You can actually do the math. My math is probably a bit off. It's probably a little bit more than that. You can maintain about 80% of your DPS without judging the seal at all, with no seal judge. But at that point, you're going to be something like 80 to 90% spirit uptime. So at this point, you're only breaking spirit ticks to heal yourself, to cast a judgment every like 30 seconds or however the seal lasts, and then to reseal yourself or to stun the target, right? Like you're trying really hard not to break the spirit ticks, and you can maintain 80% spirit tick uptime. Now, this is a feature of Paladin that is always been there for us, but we haven't talked about it very often. Drakova talks about it every now and then. If I ever make a Paladin versus Paladin PvP video, which I probably should one of these days, even though technically it's a degenerate matchup, the spirit tick thing becomes your world in Paladin versus Paladin. Actually, I should, because when TBC comes out, you're going to have a lot more Paladin versus Paladin. Spirit tick becomes your world, and I'll give you an example of this. So I was in full tier 2. This is in Classic World of Warcraft. I was in full tier 2 with oils, with Dragon Breath Chili, doing my one-handed spell power style, and I was fighting Ruklar in tier 1 with a aka Drakova in tier 1 with a Deathbringer, and he was beating my ass. Okay, he was actually kicking my dick in, like, really bad. Me in tier 2 going all out, him in tier 1 not going all out. He wins. And the reason why he was winning is because I was judging on cooldown like a madman, and he was not judging on cooldown like a madman. And he was using a weapon and a spec. He was like deep. He was like Deep Ret, but he was working the parry haste angle, and he was working the spirit tech angle, and he was beating my ass off. So I had him go fight another tier 2 paladin that had a Hand of Rag, and he barely lost to the tier 2 paladin with Hand of Rag, who was also judging on cooldown. And the reason why it's so powerful for a paladin, especially in paladin versus paladin duels, to not judge on cooldown is literally this, because you're able to maintain about 80% of your total DPS, give or take, but you're getting some ungodly amount of spirit tick up time. Well, if I have 300 spirit and it's got like a 1.2 ratio or more, so yeah, and the base was like 90. Let's just roll with it here for a second. 360, and then the base was like 90. Yeah, I'm gonna have like 450 MP5. And if I'm maintaining like 80% spirit uptick time. What is that? Let's like in 10. I want to divide this by 5. So I get per second. Every 10 seconds that goes by, I'm going to get like 8 seconds worth of tick, which means I'm regenerating like 720 mana every 10 seconds. I've got only like a 9,000-ish mana pool, which is typical in TBC. That means I'm regenerating, what is that, like 8% of my mana bar every 10 seconds just passively because I'm a dick. And I'm maintaining I'm maintaining like 80% of my DPS. I'm not ooming anytime soon, like at all. And why this is a big deal is because after looking through all the gear, I really, really struggled to find the sustain gear in TBC. Like, the gear just doesn't come with sustain on it unless you're a healer. Like, they specifically have sustain gear for healers, but it's not that great, and it's not it's not for everyone. Like, the option was MP5 on the male gear, or Spirit and sometimes MP5 on the, mostly Spirit, almost always Spirit, on the leather and the cloth gear. And what this is telling me is it's like, okay, Spirit is awesome, like it's amazing, but if you have to constantly spam spells, Spirit isn't going to work very well. Which, from a game design perspective, Blizzard was very smart not giving people much access to MP5. And the reason for that is because if our healing base is very low, right, but they're giving us an ocean of spell power, this means that downranking is a serious concern. Like, you know, it's like, oh, if they have 3,000 plus healing, what's to stop them from using, like, you know, rank 3 this heal or that heal? And the answer to that question is, well, most of your mana regen is going to come from Spirit. Therefore, if you're downranking, it's like, yes, you're greatly increasing your mana to healing efficiency, but you're also completely cucking yourself on Spirit regen. It's also the reason why, apparently, in a raid, there's going to be 2 different holy paladins. One gears for Seal of Light healing, for FOL healing. The other one gears for HOL healing, and one of these guys goes Spirit, and the other guy goes Critical Strike / MP5. And there's not a lot of MP5 gear, especially in PvP. Like, super not a lot of MP5 gear in PvP. So I was asking around, I asked Talrain about this, and apparently sustain is an issue in arenas and just in PvP gear in general. And I after looking at the gear, I'm painfully aware of why sustain is an issue. And then I watch videos like Cargo's where he talks about, like, playing a druid, and all he wants to do as a druid is just like he was talking about how it was painful for him to be a night elf druid versus this is in like the racials video. He was like, it was really painful for him to be a night elf druid versus like a Tauren druid, because night elf doesn't have war stomp, and there was plenty of times in the battleground where he just wanted to run away as the healing druid and get a chance to drink. If he had war stomp, he could do that pretty easily, but since he didn't have war stomp, it was always a struggle. And I thought it was very interesting because it was like, well, the fact that you have to run away and drink to get your mana back is telling me immediately that you're not wearing a lot of spirit gear, which is telling me that the meta is not really for the druid healer or the healer in general to wear a lot of spirit gear, I suppose, unless you're going for a sustain comp, which actually is a thing. Because they need to try to desperately to break contact and drink, which is also telling me that if they're relying on their mana efficiency primarily to come from downranking and their massive plus healing, and they're either just not taking spirit because they're not going to use spirit. Point is, spirit's not going to be a thing in battlegrounds for the most part, or in arenas, which is a big damn deal because spirit, strangely enough, is actually something that we can get to synergize. Let me go back to this Vengeance gear here real fast and talk about the damn dead stats that this crap has. Yeah, okay, so we'll look at this real fast. So whether I choose the healing gear or I choose the spell power gear, the Lamellar or the Ornamented, there we go. I basically, the spell critical strike rating, unless I'm healing, is a dead stat. So for the time on target Holy Reckoning Paladin, the spell critical strike is kind of a dead stat because I don't have Holy Shock, right? And I'm not going to be spending a lot of time healing ideally. So this is kind of a dead stat. Resilience is kind of meh because I am a prop Paladin, and we'll get into that in a second. There's just some dead stats here, and there's nothing to really replace it with. There's nothing to really replace it with. Like I was looking for, ideally I was looking for items that was like, well, what if I can find like melee stats with spell power, and that wasn't really a thing. I was like, okay, what if I can find, the best I came up with was like melee stats and then haste, which doesn't synergize well, like the Swift Steel stuff. Like, okay, got some melee stats here, and then we got haste. And then I could go down into the mail gear, which is the stuff that you have for hunters. And it's like, okay, well, that's got... It was almost what I'm trying to say is almost impossible to not have dead stat on my gear. Like, it was real struggle looking for gear that did not have dead stats on them. And what I eventually came to the conclusion was... Actually, let's go to something like this. What I eventually came to the conclusion was that... If I have to, about the only damn thing about the only thing worthwhile I can replace this dead stat specifically with is actually spirit. It's right here. It's just spirit, and the reason for that is it has to do with this weird thing with Paladin that you can maintain, especially the one-handed beat stick style. Is you can maintain a metric shit ton of your DPS while maintaining spirit ticks for a long time on a Paladin. And if you actually stop and think about this ends up being a DPS increase, and it ends up being a DPS synergy style increase. Much like if you could find gear that was like melee haste and spell power or the like. And the reason for that is because Oh, 1 sec, my brain died. Melee stat increase. Yeah, so it's the same effect as, and I know you've been there as a paladin before, where you're fighting a mob or something, and you have to choose between judging Crusader on the target for like, you know, plus 200 spell power or whatever, or you have to choose between judging Wisdom on the target. And what you've discovered eventually is that judging Wisdom on the target does way more damage than judging Crusader on the target, because you can then take that mana pullback from Wisdom and you can start judging more, you can start consecrating more, you can start using your abilities more due to having the mana pullback. So judging Wisdom on the target, and often sometimes even using Seal of Wisdom, ends up being a greater DPS increase than anything else that you could possibly do. The Spirit Tick thing is the exact same style. Just having a metric shit ton more mana to play with, especially when your opponents start getting worn down on their mana, because again, I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of comps aren't going to have anywhere near the amount of sustain as a paladin is going to have, or is capable of. It ends up being actually a DPS increase over time. So what ends up happening is, it's like, how do I put this? It's like, let's say you were fighting a shaman who's like at full mana, right? They're super deadly. Or a mage at full mana. They're also super deadly. They're really scary, which means you're going to end up forcing to heal yourself a lot. But once they drop down to about a third of a mana bar, they lose a lot of their scariness because they just don't have the resources. They don't have the mana left to really threaten you if you're able to heal to full. Which means that suddenly you're able to jump all over them. You can beat the crap out of them. They can't get you off of them by forcing you to stop and heal because you're not afraid of them anymore. It's like, I know you need, it's like when I fight a Shadow Priest. It's like, I know a Shadow Priest needs like 40% of a mana bar to threaten a kill on me. Which means if they drop to like a 30% mana bar, then I know that I don't even need to stop to heal. I can just keep going ham on them. Well, if I'm going ham on them, this is like more mana being pulled back from, like, you know, Judgment of Wisdom or whatever I put on them, which means I get to use my abilities more, which means I'm doing more damage. In this particular case, you're getting metric shit tons of mana back from your Spirit Ticks, which means you can start doing things like keeping up. Which means when you finally do pull the trigger on your offense, and your offense is going to look something like your opponents are like, you're full life, your opponents are like 20% mana. Oh, this is really annoying. I ate some popcorn. I got it in my teeth. Fuck off. Yeah, alright, there we go. Yeah, they're going to have like 10% mana or like 20% mana. You're going to be like full life, and you're like, I know you don't have the mana to kill me anymore, so I'm just going to pull the trigger on my offense. And at that point, whatever mana reserves you have left over, or you managed to hold on to, and in this case you're going to be at like a metric shit ton of mana if you're playing it properly, you get to just convert into pure DPS. You can start consecrating all over the place with its 10% per tick spell power ratio. You can judge on cooldown. You can seal twist with vengeance. You can you don't have to stop and heal yourself because they're already low mana. Like this, you can convert the fact that you have a mana bar that never runs out and can be rapidly refilled into a metric shit ton of damage on your enemy just because you have the mana to do so. So in a strange roundabout way, this spirit, being a mix of spell damage, this is supposed to be 900, being a mix of like 900 spell damage and like 1650 plus healing with a metric shit ton of spirit, that's giving me like, what was the math on that? It was like every 10 seconds I was healing like almost 800 mana back from like spirit while maintaining so like 80% of my DPS. I might have to heal myself, but it's like the same math. No. I have the mana bar to play with, and it's not going anywhere. Good luck fucking killing me, is what I'm trying to say. So, this is probably what I'll go with. An interesting mix of the ability to heal myself, a good bit of spell power, so I actually have some damage behind it, a metric shit ton of spirit, so I can work the spirit like a dirty girl, and just just never run out of the blue. Like, literally, I could probably be fighting a mana burner, and it wouldn't even matter, because the spirit ticks are going to keep me in the judgment. They're going to keep me in the heals, and it's going to keep me in the judgments of wisdom on the target, and I'm just never going to It's like almost impossible to this freaking paladin. You're more likely to yourself trying to this paladin than the other way around. I think the major issue is the moment you stop burning away their mana or mana draining them to get any kind of DPS on them, it's like 5 seconds later they've got enough mana to restart up the engine of mana regeneration. And it's just like, oh my god. So what I was thinking about specifically, and we'll get into talents. I'm not sure if I can pull up a TBC talent calculator. TBC talent calculator. See if I can pull one up. TBC talent calculator legacy. TBC talent calculator 2.5. Yeah, it's not going to work without VPN more than likely. And people getting off work, so it's going to be real bad. Alright, I guess I'll just talk about it then. Derpa. What I was talking to Talrain about, and I want to talk to you guys about, because it's probably going to be the subject of another Palicast, is what if you did twos? It's like, people keep saying that Paladins are crappy in Arena. And the only good thing that you can take into Arena as far as a Paladin is concerned... Ooh, we got one here. Sweet. The only thing that I knew one of these worked with shitty-ass Chinese internet. The only Paladin that you can take into an Arena... and the only comp that's that is actually really good. Well, they say a few things. In the Cargo's Pally video, they pointed out that Paladins and 5s are probably going to be a thing. And Endless, the private server doesn't do 5s, so, he said don't sleep on it. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. I'll think about that. But they say that Paladins aren't really a thing in 3s, and they're not really a thing in 2s, with the sole exception of, like, the Deep Ret warrior variant of a Paladin mixed with a Resto Shaman for Wind Fury and Bursts. They did point out that there's one guy using Reckoning with a Shaman at the high that has Gladiator, but they weren't really sure what the hell he was doing or what the hell was going on there exactly. What I'm proposing, however, is... the one thing that really synergizes with a Paladin is, so there's a few classes, as far as 2s are concerned, that really synergize well with Paladins. One of them that comes to mind is like a Warlock. In theory, a Shaman also synergizes really well with a Paladin, but, we don't get to test that in Classic World of Warcraft. But the one thing that really synergizes super duper well with a Paladin are more fucking Paladins. There we go. And... how do I put this? It's like an entire... popcorn. An entire enemy Warsong Gulch team, an entire 10-man Warsong Gulch team struggles to CC effectively 3 or more cleansers, especially Paladins, right? They're, technically, in Warsong Gulch and Classic World of Warcraft, they're struggling to deal with 2 Paladins and a Priest. If they had to deal with 3 Paladins, it's virtually impossible. And the reason for that is because 1 Paladin is very easy to CC. You throw CC on him, he PvP trinkets it, you're like, okay, whatever. I throw more CC on him a little bit later, he bubbles it, okay, whatever. And then the 3rd CC effectively affects him. However, with 2 Paladins, they have 2 PvP trinkets, and then they have 2 bubbles. And what's worse is you have to CC both those fucking Paladins to get to effectively stop both of them from doing anything. And then only one of the Paladins has to pop their PvP trinket, and then he immediately cleanses the other one, or bubble, and then immediately cleanses the other one. So you have to throw out two CC abilities to traded for like one of their 4 get out of jail free cards, and then it just doesn't work, right? You follow me on this? And then when you get up to 3 Paladins, it's even worse, because you need to throw out 3 CC abilities to CC all 3 Paladins, and then only one of the Paladins has to use their get out of jail free card, cleanse another one, and then the other guy cleanse another. You get the point, right? It's just cleanse, and it's just gone. So the one thing that really synergizes horrifyingly well with a Paladin is another Paladin. And specifically, what synergizes really well with another Paladin are other Paladins that can heal. So, for example, a Reckoning Paladin and a Holy Reckoning Paladin, or a Reckoning Paladin and a Holy Paladin aren't as strong of a synergy together as like two Holy Reckoning Paladins together, or like a Holy Paladin and a Holy Reckoning Paladin. And the reason for that is because if one of the Paladins can't heal and they're more like a warrior, then that's a little bit easier to CC and counter, right? Because a rogue could be sitting on like the Holy Paladin and like kicking every spell they have practically. And the other Paladin, if it's a deep Reckoning Paladin like classic World of Warcraft, then he can't really heal you very well, so there's an issue there. Whereas if it's two Holy Reckoning Paladins, it's a nightmare to deal with because they can both do DPS. They both benefit from the attentions. They both have Reckoning, so they both benefit from the attentions. There's no weak target to attack to get around the Reckoning. And then they both can heal, which means it doesn't matter if a rogue is sitting on one of you and kicking the shit out of him, the other guy just heals. It's like, okay, whatever. So, two Paladins, particularly the Holy Reckoning variant of Paladin, synergize extremely well. Two deep Holy Paladins, like Holy Shock, can also synergize very well. But they need to have sustain gear for the reasons mentioned. I think what's happening is a lot of PvPers, the Holy Shock, like double Holy Shock isn't really a thing, because as we saw, they don't do enough burst damage. They can kick out like 2,500 bursts. We got it like right here, right? Yeah, they're hitting for 1,600, and like, oh boy, they're tickling things. So they're not super bursty, and they're not taking the sustain gear either. But the question I have for myself is, I want the talent calculator. Okay, so the question I have for myself is, there might be two extremely good arena comps that have been sleeper arena comps that I definitely want to try out. So the one that I'm going to do looks something like this. This is all damage taken reduced by 6%, yeah. One here, get the Stoicism, get the 3 out of 3, want the Spell Warding, this, get the Reckoning, you're damn right. Pick up 2 points in here. Yeah, we're good. And then like the Argent Defender. I want my seals to be cheaper because we're leaning into the mana. I want some Divine Intellect. I want the ability to heal, parry haste, and the ability to run a jackass down. So like I've said in previous videos, the whole reason why I'm going into this tree predominantly is to pick up Pursuit of Justice, because if I can judge justice on my enemy and reduce their movement speed to 100%, and then I have Pursuit of Justice, they're not getting away from me for shit, which is, even if I stop and heal myself, they're going to have some serious issues. I'm not picking up Improved Judgment because our plan is to not judge on cooldown. If we even judge at all, I might be judging at like the 11-second mark or the 12-second mark. So having a 10-second judgment is perfectly fine by me. There are 3 floating talents with this build, and I'll run through the options of what we can get. We've got 3 talents left? Yeah, 3 points left. So you can get some Unyielding Faith. You could put 3 points into Improved Seal of Righteousness. You could pick up a 100% an awesome Holy Shield. I think that the Improved Holy Shield is a little bit overkill, perfectly, to be honest with you. It's only really good against rogues, and rogues are going to struggle out their ass with the fact that you have Argent Defender to begin with. So I'm not really super concerned about rogues. There might come a day when I want Improved Holy Shield, but it's like, whatever. 1 point in Holy Shield and then 2 points in Vindication might be better versus a rogue, a combination of... and of course, Holy Shield against like an Arms Warrior, the 4 charges is probably perfectly fine, 10-second cooldown, yada, yada, yada. So this is an option, 2 and then 1. You could also get 3 out of 3 of Vindication, which is potentially a thing. Or you can get like 1 point in Vindication. You could strip out a point from Argent Defender. I guess 2 points in Vindication. You can pick up like Eye for an Eye. So there's these really weird like 3 talent points that are just floating in this build that I'm comprehending currently. I could also pick up Seal of Command, which gives me some two-hander play options that I'll probably look into. And I got like one free point. Maybe I'll put it here just to split the difference, or I'll put it here to split the difference. It's like whatever. So I'm not, or here for like some purging issues or something like that. Like I really don't know what to do with these. There's so many good things to get with these 3 spare talent points. I'm just not really sure. I think I might just end up going Holy Shield because one of the PvP sets, or is it PvE set, synergizes entirely around Holy Shield, so I might just win some arena battles there, but just because you have damn Holy Shield. But this would be like spec number 1. Yeah, I'll go there, split the difference. This would be something like spec number 1, where I've got the tankiness out of the... I got Reckoning, which is awesome. Oh, the other one that I forgot to mention, which is 100% viable, let's strip the 3 out, is just putting 3 points into combat expertise, believe it or not. You can do the research on this, but having an extra like 6% health is actually pretty good. But the expertise is actually really fascinating. You can watch a Cargo's video on this, or at least I got my information from a Cargo's video. I'll just do the math real fast here. So it's like 1 point expertise or whatever equals target minus 1.25% chance to dodge and parry. So putting those 3 points there is basically means that my target has 3 points, almost a 4% less chance to dodge my attacks and a 4% less chance to parry my attacks, which is kind of a big deal. Oh, other little bits of information that I forgot to mention that might be important. Like you might be asking, like on the private servers, what do other classes look like? Other classes seem to have like a... other classes have like a 35% crit chance, give or take. So they have about a 25% crit chance after resilience is taken into account. Resilience. We're sacrificing quite a bit resilience, but we're still going to have some resilience here and there. So rather than it being a 35% crit chance, I'm dealing with in game, I'll probably be more like a 30% crit chance. So for me, it's going to be like, for me, it's going to be like a 30. My enemy is going to have a 30% chance to crit me. And then when they crit me, I'm only minusing it by like 10% damage, right? But the reason why that's not such a big issue for me personally is because, one, I have Ardent Defender, which is a thing that I really need to talk to you guys about. I've got Sacred Duty, so reducing spell damage. No, where is it? Right here. Yeah, reducing spell damage taken by 4%. You're going to have Righteous Fury on you more than likely, so you're going to be reducing your damage taken by... you got Stoicism, which is also really nice, you know, hard to dispel your stuff. Point is that the tree kind of comes with a minus 10% damage reduction on its own from just about all sources. This one is spell, and this one is like all damage, but then you're in like plate armor with like a shield, so it's like whatever. Also, I'm not super concerned about wearing plate, about wearing leather and spirit pieces because, let's go back a little bit here. Because in the max gear, I had like 1,600 armor, or maybe like 16k armor or something like that. Yeah, 16k armor, but 6k of my armor came from shield, right? So the idea is, even though you're... Really? Okay. So the idea, of course, is like, you know, I can afford to sacrifice some of my plate armor because if I'm sword and board and I'm wearing a shield, you know, I'm still going to be at like 60% armor even with the loss. The lion's share of the armor is coming from the shield, so, you know, blah, 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 blah. Argent Defender is also cancerous ass to melee classes. To describe how this thing works, it's like... How do I put this? So we're still talking about spec number 1. In my opinion, for what I'm thinking about doing, which is 2 of these paladins in an arena, in 2s, and possibly 3 of these paladins in 3s. Like you're going into of these Holy Reckoning style paladins. The other variant, of course, is you go down and you get Holy Shock, and then you spend the rest of your points wherever the hell else you please. And the reason why that is because I look at Holy Shock, its defensive benefits, and Argent Defender's defensive benefits as being almost interchangeable. So we'll just talk about Argent. Obviously, 1, you can heal yourself for 3,000, 4,000 damage. You can heal your opponent for 3,000 some or so odd damage, 3,000, 4,000 damage. Good healing. Actually, the healing ratio is not that great. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, about 3,000. I haven't tested its healing, to be perfectly honest. But you have a heal that's instant cast, which can be super useful. You can use it on yourself. You can use it on an opponent. It'll make it really hard for you to be bursted down. Argent Defender is just a passive variant of what Holy Shock is going to effectively give you. Argent Defender is really fascinating, though, because there's some skill behind it. So it's super effective against damage sources that do small amounts of damage, but it's also not super effective against damage sources that are in the form of a nuke. And the reason for this is because if you're like at 36% life and you get hit with a nuke, Argent Defender won't activate for the damage. You literally have to be like below the 35% mark to even get the benefit. So if you're sitting like 35% life and a Destro Lock is charging up a Shadow Bolt at you, you might just explode. Because if the Shadow Bolt crits, then Argent Defender is just not there for you. Where it's really good, however, is those Wombo combos. When somebody, they charge up a nuke, and then right as the nuke hits you, they blast you with an instant cast spell. Because the odds are you'll drop down to 10% life, you'll drop down to 15% life, and they'll try to hit you with an instant cast spell as opposed to charge up another nuke. That way you don't have a chance to get off a Flash of Light, for example. And Argent Defender is just there laughing at that stuff. Another example would be you're going to survive that no problems with Argent Defender. Another example would be Execute from Warriors is another big one. They see you at 20% life and they're like, I'm going to execute him. But to give you an example, let's actually get some math because my calculations traditionally are done in full plate gear. So let me actually find the math here. So if I have a 60% armor damage reduction, so I've sacrificed some of my plate gear, but I'm still a little mindful of my armor. So I have a 60% damage reduction. Maybe it's a little bit less. Maybe it's 58%, but 60% is really easy to do the math on, as opposed to 65 or 66% that I would have if I was in full plate gear. What is Argent Defender doing for me? Well, I'm already getting minus 10% from just, I get 6% here, and then Argent Defender's a 35%. So we'll just split the difference and say 40%. So it's a 40% damage reduction for the remainder, which is 40%. So 40% times 4, I think it's 16 plus 60. Yeah, so you're sitting at something like a 75% damage reduction. Okay. All right, so the math doesn't really change. So if I was in full plate armor, for example, where's the... well, I guess I already have it pulled up, don't I? So if I was in full plate armor, for example, which is how I traditionally know the math, when Argent Defender activates, if I'm in full plate armor and I have a shield, I'm taking a 77% damage reduction, 77, 78% damage reduction from physical attacks. If I drop down to 60% or 58% or something like that, it's going to be a 75% reduction in physical attacks. The point is that execute that's supposed to kill you, that next melee swing, that next mortal strike, it ain't doing shit. If you thought it wasn't doing shit before, holy crap is it not doing shit now. And Warriors particularly struggle dealing with Argent Defender because against a sword and board Paladin, they're already rage-starved as is. and then you drop into the Argent Defender mode, and you're reducing the damage that they're doing to you by like almost everything, they become super rage starved. So what happens is you're almost best off when fighting a warrior of just living in Argent Defender with like a sword and board style, or even if you're two-hander trying to live in Argent Defender, because it's such a cock for them to try to generate any rage off of an Argent Defender Paladin. Then you have these weird synergies where it's like there's a reason why in my gearing I didn't want to go too heavy on the plus healing. Like this plus healing number, the amount of spell power I'm going to convert into plus healing it's going to be very subject to change. Like I'm going to try to get as much hit points as I can on the Paladin to reach some kind of hit point break point. If I can't reach the hit point break point, then I'll need to adjust the plus healing on the gear to see if that doesn't help me hit the hit point break point. But one of the main reasons why I don't want to go too much into the plus healing is because it begins to stop synergizing too well with Argent Defender. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I get hit with like a nuclear blast, right? Like a nuke comes in and it hits me and I get dropped out. Oh, right. I forgot to mention this. So you take like 75% reduced damage from physical attacks, but from spell damage, you're taking about a little bit over 40% reduced spell damage. The reason being that you still have Seal of Righteousness. You got like 10% damage reduction from your talent points, and then on top of the 35%, it's a little over 40% damage reduction to spells. So, and on top of that, if it crits, there's still some resilience around there. You're taking like 10% reduced damage from a critical strike. So from like a normal weapon strike, normal spell strike, you're taking 40% reduced damage, and then from a critical spell strike, while in Argent Defender mode, you're probably taking 50% reduced damage from it. Why do I bring this up? Right. So if a nuke hits me I'm gonna officially call this Paladin the Holy Reckoning. This is the new Holy Reckoning Paladin of TBC. So if I get hit by a nuke and I drop down to say, we'll say 10% life, right? I do a 10% life, 15% life, 20% life, somewhere around there. I don't want to heal to full. Like, I don't want a big holy light. I want a flash of light. And I specifically want a flash of light that I know is not going to heal me past like 35%. And this is also why critical strike chance on my healing gear is a super dead stat, because it's just as likely to kill me as it is to actually save my life with this particular build. Because if I drop down to 20% and I know an FOL is going to pump me back up to 34%, and then the FOL crits, and that puts me above, 35, so Argent Defender hasn't been activated, and then the nuke comes in and I'm just dead, right? Rather than being alive, I'm fucking dead because my flash of light decided to crit. But if I have to, what I'm basically saying is I will downrank Flash of Light. I will use a middle rank Flash of Light as opposed to a max rank Flash of Light. If it is what I deem necessary to stay within the Argent Defender effect after getting hit with a nuke. So in my brain, there's basically two possibilities when you think about it. A nuke comes in and drops me into Argent Defender mode, and then while I'm charging up a Flash of Light, because that's going to be the first thing I go for is a Flash of Light. I'll get blasted with an instant cast spell like a Fire Blast, a Earth Shock, a Cone of Cold, just, something. Like, that's option number one. Option number two, which is the far more lethal and deadly option, is they don't hit me with an instant cast spell, they immediately go into another nuke. Because if, 3 back-to-back criticals, I might be in trouble, kind of a thing. Well, if they hit me with the instant cast spell, it's going to be subject to Argent Defender, which means it's going to take either 40% or 50% reduced damage, depending on whether it crits, which is not going to kill me. Like, it's not even going to come close to killing me. Like, if I have, 10% life, I'm going to survive just about every instant cast thing in the game, with the exception of, Palm Pyro, right? So I'm like, whatever. So I have plenty of time to get off multiple flashes of light and under those conditions before they can really do any kind of damage to you, because Argent Defender is just a giant cock in the ass. If they are charging up another nuke, so they've nuked me and then they're proceeding to charge up another nuke, hell, they might have already been charging up another nuke in anticipation of the first one, like, critting me, then I just immediately go for a flash of light. My flash of light is going to outspeed their next nuke, is basically what I'm saying. So I'll get the flash of light in before the next nuke comes, or I'll survive the instant cast spell. One of those two scenarios is going to be the case. I'm going to specifically want to pick... I'm going to either want a gear so that I'm going to want to make sure that the FOL that I'm healing does not get me out of Argent Defender. Like, that's not my plan. So I'm either going to downrank or I'm going to adjust my healing level, blah, 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 blah. One of the two. That's why we need to talk about Argent Defender here, kids. Totally. So by the time that nuke comes in, I'm probably going to be sitting at like 35% life, or like about 33% life or some crap like that, which is another interesting thing that we need to talk about. But I guess we'll just go over to the calculator real fast. So because this Paladin spec has more stamina, and because I'm putting a heavy emphasis on gemming for stamina over just about everything else, where's the talent calculator? Okay, here we go. Gemming for stamina, blah, 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 blah. Where's those talent points at? Yeah, so I have 60% increased stamina here. This is also why this is potentially something, because it actually comes with another 6% increased stamina here, but you might not have that. This Paladin is actually going to have something like 12,000 hit points. No joke. It's not going to be 11,000 to 12,000 hit points. He's going to have the high end of what you can expect a Paladin to have as far as hit points. He's probably going to have over 12,000 hit points. And on top of that, it's over 12,000 hit points where you have, Righteous Fury, Spell Warding, and then Argent Defender, which means he really has more hit points than you think he does. On top of that, if we're talking about doing 2s with 2 Paladins, we're talking about 3s with 3 Paladins, all of the Holy Reckoning style, or of the time on target, or the spell power. I guess that would be Sustain Holy Shock would be the other option that we're going to talk about here in a second. Ain't nobody going to be purging kings off you guys, right? The moment you get 2 Paladins together in one place, in a 2v2, purges just don't work anymore. Especially since you've got Stoicism here, which means purges really aren't worth their time, right? So it's like both of us use one global, and actually it's not even one global, because you can do Greater Blessing of Kings, I bet, I'm not sure you can do Greater Blessings of Kings in Arena or not, but if you can, it's like we're spending one global to put Kings on 2 Paladins. They're spending 2 globals to remove it, but we both have Stoicism, so it's actually going to take them more like 3 globals to remove. No. Kings is not going anywhere. Kings is not going anywhere. So now we're not talking about a Paladin that has 12k hit points. We're talking about a Paladin that has 13.5 or encroaching on, but probably we'll say 13.5. So we're talking about a Paladin that has 1,300, 3,000, 3,500 hit points. Yeah, talking about a Paladin that has significantly more hit points than you're used to having a Paladin having, and way more effective hit points than you're used to a Paladin having. The reason why I'm finding this is I want to go times 0.35. I want to find the Argent Defender. Yeah, so I'm going to show you what happens if... Now let's go back. 1350. Right, so I was going to talk about... I take a nuke, I drop into Argent Defender mode. I'm still perfectly fine to survive any, instant cast spell or anything, like an execute or whatever. I'm perfectly fine. If it's nuke to nuke, then what? I have plenty of time to put in a rank of Flash of Light that I feel is appropriate. That rank of Flash of Light is probably going to pump me back up to we'll say 30% Argent Defender. We'll split the difference. It's going to be between 25% and 33% Argent Defender, somewhere around there, whatever. Don't care. So I want to know what that looks like. How many hit points do I actually have? Can I survive the next nuke if it crits? I've got 4,000, over 4,000 fucking hit points Argent Defender mode. All right? What this means is that it's going to take like an 8K crit, right? That nuke that comes in that is going to kill me needs to do over 8,000. It needs to do over 8,000, about 8,100 points of damage, because Argent Defender is going to reduce it by 35%. The other two effects are going to reduce it by 10%, and then Resilience is going to reduce it by 10%. So 8,000 crit, which for normal people that would be like a 66% of your life gone. I'm not sure anything in the game can nuke for 66% of a target's life. So I don't know. My point is, I don't think that the next nuke coming in, even if it crits you, can actually kill you if you just like do a little FOL right there. Mind you, I think the FOL is going to heal for about 1,500, so which is like 11% of my life. So if I got hit with a nuke and I drop down to like 22% life, and then I FOL, I'm going to shoot back up to 33% life. You know, which is more, nothing's going to kill me. I know it. They might not know it. But so it's like, whatever. If it doesn't crit, then it's like only a 40%, not a 50% damage reduction. It's like, pfft. So I really don't mind too much in this gear due to the talents that people have a 30% crit chance for me against me, and there's only a 10% damage reduction there. The Argent Defender is going to be an absolute beast, is basically what I'm pointing out here. Okay, so let's talk about the other spec that I can see going into Arena with. Let's clear this. There's a reset. Okay. So it would be some kind of like holy... basically, we're just going down for Holy Shock. This still does Flash of Light? Okay, good. Pick this up. Nothing here I want. Might as well pick up some Illumination. Curse and Disease, that's kind of meh. Maybe the Disease is good. Maybe I want 3 points there. Strike chance of Holy Light. It's not bad. I guess we really don't need the MP5, so I'll pick this up. The 5 out of 5 Holy Power. Anything else we want? Holy Light. Next Holy Light. 15 seconds, right? Okay. All attacks against you have a 4% chance, cause this one's decent, I guess. Might have to pick that up. But you still definitely need your Pursuit of Justice. How many points do we have left here? So that was the bare minimum to get to Holy Shock. Then we've got 17 points left. All right, let's see what we can do with 17 points here. Kings, pick that up. Pretty sexy. 1 point here. Only 2 points left. Stoicism? Fuck yeah. Pick that shit up. Hell yeah. I'll take Stoicism in this particular case over Blessed Life. Just because Stoicism means that ain't nobody getting kings off you. Like, the difference between having Stoicism and not having Stoicism is like having kings or not having kings on you as a paladin. So maybe you want to put the 3 points over here. Maybe you don't. Like, you could. Maybe you got the 3 floating points again. You can only get 2 out of the stun. Yeah, you're missing the stun, which kind of sucks. 31, yeah. The 3 points. Blah, 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 blah. 3, yeah. So I guess you could try something like this. So you got the floating point thing again. I guess you could pick up Stoicism or something like that. But the exact same kind of gearing path is theoretically viable here. You go with a combination of spell power. You season to taste. You do a combination of spell power plus healing and spirit. And you do this like weird endurance style gameplay where for the first like 2 minutes of the fight in the arena, you're not super interested in doing all that much damage. You'll do as much damage as you can, but mostly you're interested in not dying and kind of wearing down the opponent's mana bars. Once the opponent's mana bars get to a little bit lower than they would like them to be, then you can start being super offensive with your near infinite amount of mana from your spirit regen, all that kind of stuff, and just try to grind them down into pulp. I think the judgments you'd want to have on the targets, sometimes you're going to do Judgment of Wisdom and Judgment of Crusader. Sometimes you'll have Judgment of Justice and Judgment of either Wisdom or Crusader, depending. You can see where the 2 Paladin advantage comes from. Holy Shock is nice. I'm not sure it's better than Argent Defender. One of the things I don't like about the Holy Shock build, this is pure theory crafting, so I might be talking on my ass here when we actually playtest this stuff. One of the really nice things about having the prop Paladin build, like, Reckoning and Argent Defender and all that kind of stuff, is enemy comps are only going to come in really two types as far as DPS is concerned. They're either going to have a mana bar, which means they're going to eventually have mana issues, unless they geared with the spirit. But if you're all over them like white on rice and they can't get 2 paladins off of them, they're going to have a fucking problem. So they're going to run out. Somebody's going to run out of mana somewhere pretty quickly. The only mana bar I know of that can stay in the blue for extended periods of time is a warlock, because they just life tap themselves. But that's putting a lot of pressure on the healer, like whatever healer that is. So if you got the 2 paladins just mauling the shit out of the healer, or they're mauling the shit out of the warlock, the healer's going to be like, I have no time to eat, drink, or mana regen. I would personally jump on the healer, because then they can't go and eat and drink and that kind of stuff. But the point I'm trying to make is that the melee classes have theoretically infinitely sustaining DPS, right? Rogues have infinitely sustaining DPS. Hunters have, warriors have infinitely sustaining DPS. Paladins technically have infinite sustaining DPS, even though it drops off significantly if they run out of mana. Against the non-infinitely sustaining DPS classes, you can engage them in a mana war / a war of attrition, and you'll probably win that one pretty handily. Against the melee healer composition, you're a fucking prot paladin. Like, you got the prot paladin stats. You have Argent Defender, you got Blessing of Sanctuary, you got fucking Reckoning. You may or may not have a point in Holy Shield. Like, good, you're a sword and board class, good fucking luck. Good fucking luck trying to grow like Rogue Druid against 2 Holy Reckoning Paladins on TBC. Good fucking luck trying to go Holy or Druid Warrior against 2 Reckoning Paladins on TBC. Not gonna happen. Like, their DPS is gonna fall off a cliff for multiple reasons. With the Rogue, it's an energy issue. They can't. There's no fucking way in hell a rogue can do enough damage to kill one of these paladins through Argent Defender and through all of the anti-CC chains that all the anti-CC both the paladins are bringing to the table. He's going to take a metric shit ton of damage. They're killing themselves faster by trying to kill either one of you. Holy Shield and Reckoning and Blessing of Sanctuary and Argent Defender are just going to be just death to a poor rogue. A warrior has the exact same problem, but their problem is revolving around their rage bar. They're going to be super rage starved. Just like, oh my god, the rage starvation is going to be so bad for them. So their DPS is going to fall off a cliff. They can't really kill anybody from Argent Defender. They don't have the same levels of CC as the other comps, and it's just going to be like, ugh, terrible. For the Holy Shock version, like 2 Holy Shock Paladins trying the Spirit Sustain style, DPS Sustain style, I don't like. I think they'll have better matchups against certain classes. Like, the one thing the Holy Shock really brings to the table is you super duper aren't letting the enemy healer drink. Like, nobody is drinking with 2 Holy Shocks on the table. Ain't nobody doing nothing. Dropping combat and drinking, no way, no how. Whereas the prop paladins just need to be a little bit more aggressive with jumping all over the enemy healers. Your stuns, which is another major advantage that the 2 prop paladins have. Again, you can combine the 2. You can have like one that's Holy Shock and one that's prot, but then that leaves the whole of them jumping on the Holy Shock paladin, and they get around all the reflect damage and the reckoning charges and so forth and so on. It's the fact that they have 2 Hammer of Justices. So the time on target paladins basically live and breathe off of their hands of Justices. So they jump all over you. They beat the crap out of you until they need to heal. And then one of the paladins stuns you for 6 seconds. Both of the paladins stop and heal each other just in case, like, the rogue kicks you or the warrior kicks you or somebody sheeps you. Like, somebody tries to stop the healing happening. It's like, whatever, both of us are healing, you're not stopping shit. One of us is going to get the healing in, and then a few seconds later you rinse and repeat. So you basically you live and breathe You heal off of your stuns. Stuns aren't for catching people. How you catch people is, one of the paladins at all times is making sure that they're just beating whoever their main target is dick off, basically. So I don't know if I like the Holy Shock variant of this style more than I like the Prot variant of this style. Let me reset this. Yeah. This just, in my brain, feels a lot more comfy. Like, there are some negatives to it, though. 3 here, yeah. There are some negatives. Some of the negatives are... Argent Defender might not save you in certain situations where Holy Shock might actually save you, but I'm really struggling to figure out under what conditions that something like this just doesn't cause nightmares for your opponents. Come on. Boom, 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 boom. And 2 points left? Yeah, where do I put these 2 points? Get them extra stamina? Maybe. Possibly. This is actually stamina and DPS, which I find hilarious. Reducing dodge and parry chance. But anything that parry is going to be super effective against, it's like, whatever. 2 points in Vindication, potentially. 2 points in Toughness, maybe. Get this here. I don't know. Got these 2 floating points. 2 points here, maybe. 2 points in Shield Block. 2 points in, ooh, maybe this. But I don't want my Holy Light to go up too high. But I guess I could... This is different gearing for spell power. Command, I can play around with the two-handed stuff. Yep, just don't know. But yeah, but I'm basically asking around, and the question I have is, what the hell do you guys think about a spec like this, where you're picking up Argent Defender and maybe 1 point in Holy Shield? You've got Reckoning, you've got like major amounts of damage reduction, you've got Stoicism, you've got Hammer of Justice on a 35-second cooldown, you have Blessing of Sanctuary, which is a little bit overpowered in TBC, you have Pursuit of Justice, which is awesome, you got some parry, but not that that really matters, and you have the ability to heal in combat, which may or may not be augmented, or you might just have more hit points, one of the two. And then your combat strategy is you gear in such a way that you're really leaning into heavy amounts of spirit with the combat style that we talked about, where we can maintain metric shit tons of spirit tick up time, despite the fact that we're still pumping rather alarming amounts of DPS. Now, this build, in my opinion, actually doesn't have... How do I put this? It's like... This build has enough DPS for you to go 1v1 with somebody. Because you're either going to beat them on a sustain game, or you're going to beat them on a DPS game, flash damage mitigation game. You're okay in your DPS in a 1v1. But you're not okay with your DPS in a 2v2. However, there's 2 of you. So with 2 of you pumping like 300-ish DPS into your targets, maintaining like 600 DPS into your target. Like, literally, it's like, I'm estimating that this Paladin can... Every second of time this Paladin is physically on top of somebody, they're losing 300 hit points a second. Mostly because the vast majority of your damage is holy damage, it's not physical damage. So 300 DPS sounds low until you realize that it's actually unmitigatable damage for the most part. So they're losing about 300 damage a second. There's 2 of you, so that's about 600 damage a second. That means that every 10 seconds, one of your opponents has lost like half their life. There's some spell cleave involved there, because both, if you're smart about this, this is not a Seal of Blood build at all. This is a you take Vengeance and you Seal Twist with Vengeance. Technically, it's not even Seal Twisting. The Seal Twisting isn't even in the game. You can still use the Seal of Vengeance for the extra attack power. Both of the Paladins jump on top of the healer. They won't let the healer go. The healer can't get away from them. They don't give a flying fuck who the DPS is in the vast majority of circumstances. And they just don't let the healer drink. They don't let they put a lot of pressure on the healer so they can't get like spirit ticks. They're having to heal themselves way too often. They're being a little conservative and defensive until the enemy's DPS starts falling off, like they start being actually worn down in the mana, and then they start going a little bit more ham. So they're not trying to kill super quickly. They're not running out of mana. Their mana is not going anywhere. What am I trying to say about the DPS? Blah, 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 blah. I forgot my train of thought here. Right, so both of you are unCCable. Either one of you is virtually unkillable. You're not going to run out of mana. Oh, right, I was talking about the DPS with, like, Vengeance and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, right, the cleave. Yeah, you got some cleave there because there's Vengeance. And if you're jumping on top of the healer, if you jump on top of the DPS, then the healer is free to downrank and free cast. Especially the hard cast spells. They're free to break combat and go heal relatively unmolested. One sec, I gotta go check something. Alright, we're back. Stubbed my toe real bad. Kind of annoying. Alright, what was I talking about here? Oh yeah, I was talking about like spell cleave or something. So, you got some spell cleave in the sense that every time you're throwing out your 6-second stun, you have the ability for both paladins to throw down Consecration, right? You can coordinate it. Because Consecration has a really, really nice spell power ratio. It's a massive increase in DPS. And, well, actually, in this case, since you guys are likely both healing yourselves, you have a 9-second CC chain stun, which is actually really sexy. But for the most part, I foresee it being like, you throw out the 6-second stun, one or more of you starts the healing process. Both of you had consecrated at the same time, so you're not really losing any DPS, despite the fact that you're actually, healing and not meleeing. If you're fighting like Rogue or Druid, like, some melee classes, that kind of stuff, if you're jumping on the healer, you got some spell cleave there, because it's like, well, what's the rogue or the warrior going to do? Are they not going to attack one of the paladins? And if they're attacking you, that means you're all in one tight little group, which means I can put a Seal of Vengeance on both of them, get both of them having the spell power dot, and then the other paladin does the same thing, so they both have 2 dots on them. They're both standing in 2 consecrations, even though they might not want to be. They are both suffering from, not both suffering, but Reckoning is also in play. So God help them if the warrior decides, or the rogue. I think the rogue also possibly gets some cleave damage, but God help them if the warrior decides that 2 Reckoning paladins standing next to each other is a good time for melee cleave, because then he's really going to give everybody Reckoning charges. There is a lot of DPS flowing here that is actually quite fascinating. So even if you're not playing the sustain game, right? Like, you're not working over the mana bars. I'm pretty sure that the healer is going to be under so much stress that they're going to eventually, or they're just not going to be able to keep up with the amount of DPS that is actually flowing out of these paladins. I don't know. Let me know what you think. This is definitely something I'm going to playtest in TBC. And I probably have a lot to say about, hit point breakpoints and, like, healing breakpoints, and, what spirit is too much spirit. Maybe plus 300 spirit is too much spirit. Maybe I don't need that. Blah, 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 blah. But, yeah, so this is my thought process so far. I have looked into the gear. There's not really much else going on. The things I need to look into is I need to look into potentially going resist gear. There wasn't a lot of pen gear in the game. There's a lot of pen gear if you gem pen gear. But there wasn't a lot of pen gear, like, just the spell penetration stats. It was all PvE gear. And most of it was on cloth. It was like cloth, and, like, none of it was on leather or mail, which kind of makes some sense, I guess. So I'll look into some spell power pieces, see if that goes anywhere. The other thing I need to look into was that whole burst damage thing, like when we had the video pulled up, the Talrain video at the start of this thing. Ooh, that's not it. That's also not it. Not it. Not it. Not it. Still not it. This is it. Yeah. All right, ladies. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, let's see here. Yeah, this thing. Option number 2. I need to look into the variant damage burst build. The variant damage burst will probably... It's going to be gearing in a sense where you're trying to replicate... like in a classic World of Warcraft Avengers geared or T2 geared, ideally Avengers, Avengers geared Deep Ret Paladin, right? And the problem is that you have to mix and match the gear now in order to get that effect. So, for example, Avengers had just about everything you wanted, right? Like, it had stamina, it had intellect, it had critical strike chance, it had spell power, it had strength, it had all the stats you wanted, including the ability to heal yourself. Well, what they've ripped away from us in TBC, as near as I can tell, is that they've taken a metric shit ton of our base healing away, which is really bad for like a classic Deep Ret build. And then there is no like classic Deep Ret gear. There's no set out there that is like, hey, this is the Avengers of TBC. They're literally pigeonholing Deep Ret, assuming you don't break the mold, assuming you do what Blizzard tells you to do as far as their gearing options that they're presenting before you. You're going to be super itemized for physical damage, but you're basically going to play like a warrior, and you're going to play like a front-loaded warrior. That is to say that when you go out of mana, you're going to not be super hot. Your ability to heal yourself is going to be dog shit, like absolutely terrible, because, you super itemized for the physical damage. What else? Your sustain capability is just not going to be there. You're going to in probably under 10 minutes. Under 10 minutes. Under 2 minutes of PvP combat, you're going to be going Yeah. I'm not really sure what gear I'd want to mix and match, though. It is super viable that I think, but I'll have to look into it. The question is, how do I put this? The whole reason why dropping the spell power gear and going plus healing gear, especially with the spirit, specifically the plus healing spirit gear, is viable for the time on target paladins and for the spell power based paladins, one-handed or otherwise, is because of this ratio right here, right? Even though we're looking for the plus healing, we're getting plus healing no matter what. So we're getting either 60% of it, and we just get a mix and match, right? So that doesn't hurt so bad. It's not like we're choosing between either spell power or just plus healing. At least it comes with spell power on it. However, when I try to do the other thing where it's like, maybe for the sustain style or the variant burst style, you switch out like 4 pieces, maybe 5 pieces of your gear to like spell power and healing. Ideally, you'd go spell power, healing, and spirit just to actually have the spirit. But you're going to be losing critical strike chance. You're going to be losing strength. You're going to be losing all the things that you really like, just for the ability to potentially heal like slightly not as good as you could in classic World of Warcraft. So it's like you're sacrificing your melee DPS rather significantly just to be able to get back to baseline that we were in classic World of Warcraft. So that sounds kind of shitty if you ask me. The spirit is kind of nice on the variant burst, or just picking up the spirit in general. Maybe there's a different stat that you would want as opposed to the spirit, but this base healing issue possibly kills trying to replicate the classic WoW Deep Ret Paladin in TBC. That's what it's looking like from the gearing, at least. You would need to play test it a little bit. It's going to be super tight. If you can make it work, would be my guess. Like you strip out like 4 pieces of gear, make them plus healing gear, make it like spirit plus healing gear, because if you're not using Crusader Strike, well, Crusader Strike's also on like a 10-second, it's on a 6-second cooldown, isn't it? Yeah, oh, God. So yeah, I guess you could just not deal damage for a while and regenerate your spirit for a bit. Ugh, it's just bad. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not looking good. Yeah, but I got to look into it. It also has to do with ratios and stuff. It's just whatever. Anyway, so I'll stop the video here. Hopefully I can talk to some other people and see what they think about taking 2 prop pallies into TBC. Like, they're going to hear prop pally and they're going to be like, oh my god, yeah, blah, 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 prop pally, lol. But technically, I'm not. This is time on target Holy Reckoning. You're going in with 2 time on target Holy Reckoning spell power paladins. These things are. I think I would, if the comp becomes successful, I'd probably name it something like Pitbull Pally, just because that's going to be kind of what it feels like. It's going to feel like you're getting mauled by 2 pit bulls, and you just can't do anything about it. Like, they won't fucking die, and they won't run out of mana, and you can't get them off of you, and holy shit, they actually do DPS. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah, their DPS sucks. The problem is they can do a lot of it over the course of a long period of time, and eventually they're just going to grind you into pulp. They're just going to wear you down and grind you into pulp. So, survive everything that you throw at them. You can't get away from them. They're going to wear you down and grind you to pieces. So, anyways, Deus Vult, boys, and I'll keep doing my research. I'll keep looking into things. But to be perfectly honest, the gearing is not very varied in TBC. It's very cookie cutter. It's like whatever the fuck you're seeing in Phase 1 is what you see in Phase 2, and Phase 3, and Phase 4, however many fucking phases there are. Whatever the gear is at the start of the game, that's how it is for the entirety of the game. So it's not like there's a Tier 2 and then an Avengers, you know what I mean, where there's just not a good variety is what I'm trying to say. Alright, anyways. Deus Vult, boys.